Did you know India is now the third largest producer of ethanol in the world and it has surpassed China?
Yeah, India produced 4.7 billion liters of ethanol in 2022, while China produced 4.2 billion liters. Ethanol, as we all know, is a byproduct mainly from feedstock like sugarcane, maize, rice, so on and so forth. So let us see how India started this journey and where are we heading. So stay tuned. To know about ethanol, we should know something about sugarcane first, because in India, ethanol is primarily extracted from sugarcane. We will also talk about other crops and their usage for ethanol, but let us start with sugarcane first. India is the second largest producer of sugarcane in the world, following Brazil. Sugarcane cultivation in India has a long history and plays a crucial role in the country's agriculture and economy.
The sugarcane production grew by 8% year on year in the year 2022 and it is estimated to grow 12.5% year on year in 2023. So the sugarcane year is bit different. It starts in July and ends in June. So 12.5% growth is estimated for the year ending June 2023.
So, around 500 million metric tons of sugarcane was produced from July 2022 to June 2023.
For producing ethanol, the most important element of sugarcane is molasses. So the process goes like this. First, the sugarcane is crushed. Then, sugar is made from crushed cane and the byproduct is molasses. Ethanol is then made from that molasses. Roughly, 1 ton of sugarcane can produce 100 kg of sugar and 70 liters of ethanol.
Now, the next stage is blending with petrol. As of today, we can blend around 10% of ethanol with the petrol. This blend is called E10. The mnemonic is simple. If there is a 5% ethanol, we call it as E5 fuel.
India's journey of ethanol blending began in 2003. So it began as a pilot study in 9 states and later it got expanded. Earlier, ethanol was used in making potable liquor and industrial appliances, but with ethanol blending program, the excess ethanol was supplied to oil marketing companies for fuel production.
Over the years, we have achieved higher blending targets, and by 2025, we aim at achieving 20% blending too. HPCL has started its pilot project on E27 fuel as well. And apart from petrol, companies are also working on blending ethanol with diesel. Actually, mixing ethanol with petrol is easier than diesel, as diesel is considered as class B fuel, while petrol as well as ethanol are considered as class A fuels. But research is going on ethanol blended diesel too, and the government aims at achieving 5% biodiesel blending by 2030.
If you see globally, US and Brazil are the leaders of ethanol production. Both have gained expertise in designing and manufacturing flex fuels. Flex fuels are also called E85 fuel, where the ethanol proportion is 85%. In Brazil, around 80% of the cars are on flex fuels.
In India, there are a few automobile manufacturing companies like Toyota, Maruti Suzuki, Honda, etc., that have showcased a prototype of India's first mass market flex fuel cars. The Union Minister of Road Transport and Highways introduced India's first ethanol ready flex fuel hybrid car, Corolla Altis Hybrid, in October last year.
Yes, the minister even said new scooters from Bajaj, TVS, and Hero will run on 100% ethanol. Also, Toyota will soon launch Camry, which will run on 100% ethanol and can also generate 40% electricity. So, the average fuel cost will also come down significantly.
But currently, we have achieved 10 to 11% blending successfully, which is up and running. And
Right.
achieving the target of 20% blending with petrol will require around 10 billion liters of ethanol. In the ethanol supply year 22-23, which is from December to November, around 5.6 billion liters of ethanol were supplied to all oil marketing companies. That means within the next 2 years, the supplies have to grow by more than 80%, which seems unlikely if we focus only on sugarcane as the main feedstock. And aiming at flex fuel will require much more ethanol production.
Therefore, it is important that we diversify away from sugarcane. A good part is that the process has already started. You can see how the transition happened over the years. So, until ethanol supply year 2018-19, most of the ethanol was extracted from C heavy molasses. So, by 21-22 and 22-23, C heavy molasses was hardly 3% and 1% respectively. However, extraction from B heavy molasses is now more than 40%.
Within sugarcane itself, we have also successfully extracted ethanol out of sugarcane juice, and today around one-fourth of the ethanol is extracted from it. Even rice also accounts for more than 25% of ethanol.
An important point is that we must remember the transition is driven by government policies and research and development from the industry. Earlier, ethanol's prices were market determined, but I think in 2014, the government reintroduced the administered pricing for ethanol.
Not only that, there is a differential pricing for ethanol based on the feedstock. The prices of ethanol from sugarcane are fixed by the government and then approved by Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, whereas prices of ethanol from other food grains are fixed by the oil marketing companies. You can see current fixed prices of ethanol from different feedstocks on your screen now. We have also compared the current ethanol prices of India with Brazil, US, and Thailand. And based on the feedstock, India's prices are either lower or higher compared to other countries. Due to this push, we have been able to save a cumulative of 539 billion rupees of foreign exchange from 2014 to November 2022. The government report also says that during this period, around 31 million tons of greenhouse gas emissions have been reduced due to ethanol. It has also helped increase income of some segments of farmers as a lot of feedstock, be it sugarcane or rice, has been diverted for producing ethanol.
The industry has also started exploring ethanol from maize, which hasn't been popular in India so much. But US, on the other hand, derives most of its ethanol from maize.
This diversification is very important because
Right.
reliance on sugarcane alone is bad. And that too, when we demand 80% more ethanol in the next couple of years, it will be really bad. An interesting fact is you might have noticed a drop in ethanol supplies in the year 2016-17. This decline is mainly due to severe drought conditions in Maharashtra, which is a significant contributor of ethanol and a leading producer of sugarcane in the country.
So let us have a look at the share of top maize and sugarcane producing states. Then we will come back to the point of diversification. So sugarcane, as you can see, is concentrated in a few states, whereas maize is produced widely across the country. Share of three states in case of sugarcane is around 80% of all India output, whereas it is just 40% in the case of maize.
UP itself accounts for 40% of sugarcane in India, followed by Maharashtra and Karnataka. In case of maize, Karnataka leads the pack, but its share is around 15%. Also, have a look at the gap between two states. You can notice that it is very high in case of sugarcane and very low in case of maize.
So this shows that sugarcane is kind of a risky crop, at least in the case of ethanol production. So if there is a drought or flood or any other issue in the topmost states, then we can see a drop in the total production. And so that will impact the ethanol output as well. So, however, maize is widely available and the most states can try to increase its output. Any issue or calamity in one state might not impact the overall output. So, this is one of the major advantages of maize over sugarcane.
There is another disadvantage to sugarcane production, and that is water. For producing 1 kilo of sugar, we require 1600 to 2000 liters of water. And that means for 1 liter of ethanol from sugar, we need about 2860 liters of water. To give another context, in Maharashtra, close to 70% of irrigated water goes into sugarcane production.
That is a lot of water. Maize or any other food grain, on the other hand, consumes less water. So, therefore, there is a need to look beyond sugarcane.
Yes. Now let us talk about some economics. Why should we think about ethanol as an alternative fuel?
In the last decade, India's petroleum consumption has increased by 3%, its crude oil imports by 4%, and the number of vehicles by 10%. Looking at this growth, we can surely estimate that our energy needs are not going to slow down anytime soon. IEA estimates that by 2030, India's oil demand could rise to 6.7 million barrels per day from 4.7 million barrels per day in 2021.
And we all know that we depend on oil imports for our energy needs. So, from current account deficit perspective too, it is important for us to start exploring alternative fuel options. Also, ethanol manufacturing aids farmers as they can now get higher remuneration for their produce.
It is often said that ethanol is climate friendly and a cleaner source of energy too. It is true that it contains higher level of oxygen and that's why when it burns it emits 20 to 40% lesser carbon dioxide than the conventional fuels. But there's a growing voice on the negative impact of ethanol on the environment.
And these opinions have emerged lately after studying life cycle assessments, which is basically understanding the impact at every stage, right from plant to fuel. Basically, they say that for producing ethanol, a lot of greenhouse gas is emitted indirectly, either due to deforestation or excessive use of fertilizers or pesticides. For example, due to increasing demand for sugarcane based ethanol in Brazil, there has been extensive deforestation of rainforests that has resulted in 60% higher greenhouse gas emissions compared to petrol. Clearing forest land for growing ethanol feedstock is not net carbon negative.
Also, a study in China found that emissions from ethanol and biodiesels were 40% and 20% higher than the petrol and diesel use. And that is due to the higher use of fertilizers, higher energy consumption during the process, and the coal dominated energy mix.
Similarly, research in the US found that the carbon intensity of ethanol may be 24% higher than petrol due to land use change, increase in fertilizer usage, and damage to ecosystems.
Therefore, environmental benefits are controversial and harder to gauge and calculate. But we do have an economic benefit. But it is up to policymakers to choose what works better in the long run.
True. There is another concern that should be at least discussed in brief in this podcast, and that is regarding food security. Again, there is a growing voice that if the crops are diverted for ethanol instead of consumption, then India will have a food security crisis.
I guess these concerns are overstated. We believe that if there is a shortfall in some crops, then prices of such crops will rise, which will incentivize other farmers to start growing these crops. Therefore, we believe that neither additional acreage nor supply diversion are very important issues that can hurt India's food security.
But what can be of major concern is the risk of monocropping, which is that due to such additional demand for ethanol feedstock crops, there is a risk that farmers will cultivate only one crop every season, and that can deteriorate soil quality and entail more usage of pesticides and fertilizers.
There is another risk in India, and that is of its policy uncertainty. In 2022, FCI, the Food Corporation of India, released 1 million metric ton of rice at subsidized prices for ethanol production. But just at the beginning of the last month, that is in July 2023, FCI stopped it, and the reason was inflation. This decision was preceded by the ban on the exports of non basmati white rice from India that has resulted in the losses for many distilleries. There are reports that say around 100 distilleries in UP, Maharashtra, and other states have shut their operations or are in the process of shutting them due to such a decision.
Hmm. We can say that there is this risk of policy uncertainty. So, in conclusion, we believe that there is a huge potential to save our foreign exchange and make our farmers richer as we go ahead and embrace newer technology and better fuel alternatives because this is the need of the hour. But environmental impacts are something that we cannot comment on as we are not the experts.
Hopefully, the world will devise certain mechanisms through which the overall life cycle environmental impact becomes positive. And if that happens, then this journey will be smoother and less polluting in general.
Yes. So, on that hopeful note, that's it from this episode. If you like this video, please, we request you to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel and share it with all the people you know. This will really help us grow our channel and bring such interesting and insightful content every week.
Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.